David-08 is an android created by the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. David has software that includes a learning and development feature, allowing him to rapidly expand his knowledge in a variety of industries. It doesn't remind me of anything. In this video, I will justify why the movie makes so many references to God and religion. Why are the criticisms of the movie unfounded? Why do the colonists behave so rashly? I will also analyze the cut dialogue between the engineer and Peter Weyland, and, of course, I will analyze David in detail to understand what kind of character he is. As stated in Musk's address, this kind of technology can make humans hopelessly obsolete. That's exactly what we see in the movie Prometheus. Some, criticizing the picture, noted that the crew often behaved stupidly and unprofessionally. Many considered it a script flaw and outright hack work, while such behavior is quite logical in the world of the future depicted by Ridley Scott. People in this world have forever lost their superiority in thinking abilities. The ship is run not by humans, but by an artificial intelligence named Mama, and the humans in the ship are looked after by a robot android named David. The people on this ship are rather secondary, so it's not strange that the crew behaves in a seemingly rash manner, taking off their spacesuits, smelling flowers, and so on. All their actions are based on preliminary threat assessment by instruments and artificial intelligence. Therefore, humans have no reason whatsoever to doubt the claims of artificial intelligence far superior to them. There's also the false claim by critics that supposedly the people involved in humanity's first colonization mission must be exceptional specialists, literally the best of the best. This too is at the very least a debatable, and at most, a silly statement. First of all, nowhere in the two films does it state that this is humanity's first mission. On the contrary, in the supplemental materials, there is a phrase that this is the first mission of this magnitude. And this directly tells us that there were many of these missions, and there are probably quite a few colonized planets in Ridley Scott's world. Secondly, this is not a mission of mankind, but a project of the private company Weyland-Yutani. And in the movie Prometheus, upon closer examination, it becomes clear that colonization served only as a cover for the true objectives. The assertion that the crew of a spaceplane should consist of intellectuals is extremely controversial. Probably people of the 40s and 50s of the last century also thought that the man of the future, who would drive the best models of modern transportation and possess the best technologies of electronic computing, would be educated and reasonable. I wonder what he would think if he met some not-so-smart blonde on a top-of-the-line Tesla model with the latest version of the iPhone in hand. But let's get back to David. Weyland Industries has created an artificial intelligence in the form of a robot named David. Weyland Company. Our goal was to create artificial intelligence that is almost indistinguishable from a human. He's capable of doing almost anything he's assigned to do. What can you do, David? I can do almost anything I'm asked to do, including carrying out instructions that a human might consider unacceptable or unethical. A robot can optimize organizations and interact easily with people. One of David's key characteristics is the fact that he understands emotions but does not feel them, allowing him to be more effective and competent. When the voiceover asks David what makes him sad, he answers. And what I find interesting is the phrase unjustified violence. That is, if the violence is justified, David will not be stopped and will use it. It is this ability that will allow him to do things in the future that are immoral from people's point of view. Technological, intellectual, physical, emotional. Why did Peter Weyland create David? Let's transport ourselves to the moment when David meets Peter, because it has a number of interesting moments. And then later he asks to walk. And some people ironize that David's gait is too mechanical, but it's perfectly understandable because David has a machine learning program, and if these are his first steps, it's normal. A person after birth also begins to walk, not immediately, and his first steps are hardly ideal. Later, David will learn to imitate a natural human gait. He asks to choose a name, and the android, seeing Michelangelo's statue of David, chooses a name for himself. Peter says that he created David so that together they could figure out who the creator of mankind is, but that's not quite true. And David's next reasoning is exactly what exposes the truth. It turns out that Peter actually created him for one thing, to serve him. Remember this, it's an important key point. I'll come back to it near the end of the video, but it's also not actually the true reason Peter created David. David notices that he is a fulfillment of his creator because he can live virtually forever. You will die. I won't. And by Peter's heavy sigh, it's clear what worries him most. Immortality. Let us, like David, speculate on what distinguishes an ordinary man from God. To be equal to God, one needs at least 3 components. The first is absolute knowledge, or to use the movie's vocabulary, Prometheus, fire. In Greek mythology, Prometheus was one of the titans who stole fire from the gods and passed it on to humans, teaching them how to use this power. This led to a loss of faith in divine power and angered the gods. Prometheus's fire is the power of absolute knowledge, to the acquisition of which Peter Weyland came close. The second component is the possibility of becoming a creator, and not just a creator of things, but a creator of new life. God, possessing absolute knowledge, is able to create, and the crown of his creation is man, created in his image and likeness. And Peter Weyland created David in his own image. But there is a third and final component, and that is immortality. Acquiring immortality is the main goal of the Prometheus mission, disguised as a colonization mission. This is also the reason why the participants of the mission were not subjected to strict requirements and were not seriously trained. Peter Weyland wanted to meet his creators. He, who had the knowledge and technology to find them and fly to them, taking his creation made in his image, wanted only one thing: to meet his gods and reveal the last secret that would put him on a par with his creators, the secret of immortality. In the end, things didn't work out quite the way Peter had planned, but more on that later. So during the long flight, David continued his studies, watching movies and studying people's dreams. Eventually, he began to develop a kind of aversion to humans. When the discovered engineer's head begins to be examined, and this happens to it, David pronounces, if those who created humans are also mortal, then they are not true gods, and his creators are not so divine either. If Peter Weyland has learned to create life and has knowledge, but is mortal, then he, David, has knowledge, has immortality, but has not yet learned how to be a creator. That is why he is so fascinated by culture and creativity. He is also constrained by a program that forces him to serve his master, Peter Weyland. That's why he says a strange phrase for us, because the death of his creators will only lead to the freedom he covets. David finds a vase with a strange liquid in it. Unlike the crew, he understands what it is. He decides to try its effects on one of the crew members, and before he does, he asks a question. And then finally, Peter Weyland meets his makers. Initially in the movie, it's not quite clear what David said to the engineer, and why the engineer decided to kill everyone. But later, deleted scenes from the movie were released, and among them is that very scene, and it answers a lot of questions. Let's take a closer look at it. The engineer asks, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" David replies, "This man is here because he doesn't want to die. He believes you can extend his life." Engineer, what has this man done that is so great to deserve more life? David translates, and Peter Weyland answers, "Do you see this man? My company created him from nothing. I created him in my own image, and he's perfect. He never fails. I deserve this because you and I were the best. We are creators, we are gods, and gods never die." It was those words that made the engineer so angry. Peter Weyland is a creation of engineers, and just as Peter himself created David to serve him, so the engineer wishes only that. Just as David has never been seen by people as their equal, Peter broke the commandment, "I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods before me." He became proud and thought he was equal to his creator, for which he was punished. In 1997, the computer Deep Blue beat the world chess champion Garry Kasparov. Before this event, Garry Kasparov had said that a machine could never outplay a human, and stated the following: "If a computer can surpass the best of the best in chess, it will mean that a computer is able to compose the best music, write the best books, and I can't believe it. If a computer with a rating of 2,800, i.e. equal to mine, is created, I myself will consider it my duty to challenge it to a match in order to protect the human race." Years have passed since then, and today Kasparov says that man has no chance of beating a decent chess program, and even an application downloaded to a smartphone can beat any person. Neural networks are already drawing amazing pictures and incredibly photorealistic images, writing text and composing music. Yes, they are still not equal to humans in some respects, but every year much of what is depicted in movies like Prometheus becomes more and more realistic. Today, as neural networks have gotten a new boost in development, thanks to technologies such as GPT chat, image Orni, philosophical and ethical questions about the use and development of these neural networks have once again begun to occupy people's minds, and characters like David have become more relevant and in need of rethinking than ever before. This was the first part of the video dedicated to David, touching on the events of the movie Prometheus. If you enjoyed the video, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel, give it a like, and write any comments under this video.